new on this presentation, and that would be PowerPoint. So please bear with me as I try and learn new technology. The other thing is that I was contacted by a guild on the East Coast, and I'm going to do my first Zoom presentation. I don't even know the details and all that, but I really enjoyed talking to the guild leader, Joe. And we were talking about, I guess, people from excuse me, how gross. The people from all over the world have joined in to some of their Zooms. They've had Joe Cunningham, and they also have had Rosalie Dace, people I absolutely love. And she said, gosh, should we be charging them? And I said, yes, because guilds are the heartbeat of who we are. And we've got to keep you guys healthy and strong. Don't you agree, everybody? So today we're going to do, it's either going to be a 2 or 3-part series, because my whole PowerPoint, when I'm doing it in person, takes over an hour. And so we're going to do little chunks of it, all right? And the upshot of the whole thing is I had the good fortune of taking a class way back in the day by a Mennonite quilter named Lucy Hilty. So we'll get going on that, and I'm going to share her lessons and then how it all applies to even what we're doing today. So that's going to be the long of the short of it. But before we get started, I got another Sequoia sampler I want to share with you, and it's Barbara's. So let me get over here. And I got another one, but I can't find it. So if you sent me one and I didn't put it up, send it again, please. So look at what Barbara did with all of that fabric. I mean, my gosh, that focus fabric, you really got it in there. I love it. And I love how the border had the coordinating piece with the piece that's in the center. And your flowers are so whimsical and fresh. So I'm looking at everything here, at all your blocks and everything. I do like that some of them have dark backgrounds and some have light backgrounds. This is just really, really super fun for me. And again, I'm getting really excited for the next one that we're going to do. Let me share something else that's going on with me. You know that I've been taking Joanne Sharp's watercolor and whimsy classes. And it's been, there's nothing worse than a blank page, okay? And so she's getting me through this. Well, my daughter, knowing how much I'm enjoying Joanne's class, got this for my birthday, and I'd never heard of it, but other people have. It's called the Sketchbook Project. And the idea is that you get this little sketchbook, and then you do your bit in it, and then you mail it to the place. It's going to be digitized, and all of these different art pieces are going to be together. I've got till August 15th. But here's the thing. This terrifies me. It absolutely terrifies me. Also, I can tell by the paper, the weight of it, it really is meant for sketchbook. Well, I'm really into watercolor. So, and what Joanne's teaching. So, ding, brilliant. I came up with the idea is I would cut out watercolor pages and then do art on it and then glue it into the book. So here's what January felt like. This one, I don't know what I think, but it's going to go in. Okay, now this book is starting to get really precious to me, okay? I don't know that I'm what I want to give it away. And then Adair goes, yeah, but Mom, you can look at it digitally. I love this one. This is acrylics, and I've got to figure out what words I'm going to do in it. And these are all lessons we've done with Joanne. This is actually from Joanne's book, where you take and you do acrylics. And so you just do groovy all over acrylics. Then you take and you do black and draw your flower. And then you take white acrylic and put it on the outside. So this was really fun. My third grader now, she corrected me last night, is loving what I'm doing. So I want to show you Lev's flower that she did a la Joanne Sharp. I thought this was pretty exciting. She took a piece of paper, she did a rainbow, and then she cut out the paper, mounted it on white, and then did her little squiggles on it. That makes Bubby really happy, really, really happy. So it's about 10:05. I want you to know that if you come in late, you can scroll back to the beginning and or you can go watch these again. I am going to be throwing a lot of information at you, and just let it sink in, okay? So I am going to say that in college I took a woodworking class, and actually I did a cradle, and it ended up in the Fine Woodworking Annual Edition. My teacher was a shaker expert, a West Coast shaker expert. And that's when I started learning. I knew nothing about Mennonite. I knew nothing about Amish. I knew nothing about shaker. And what the one thing he did teach us was, look, I don't know what you're going to get out. I mean, what the heck? And I never thought something like my cradle would end up in that book, but that wasn't the intent of his class. The intent of his class was, when you look at a piece of furniture, I want you to be able to tell if it's good or if it's garbage. You know, does it have beautiful dovetails? Does it have this or that? How does the drawers glide out? Is the back just cardboard stapled on with, stapled on the dresser? Understand what you're looking at. And so that is what I'm hoping I can do for you, is to have you look at quilting designs perhaps with a little more discrimination. All right? So here, this is the big test as I go over to PowerPoint. And John's in the other room watching, and if it doesn't work, he's going to come in and save me. So, I got to do screen share first. All right, here we go. Technology. All right, I am going to go up to my PowerPoint, and there we go. If you come to a lecture by me, chances are I will start it off with my little logo thing. So, how did I get started quilting? It all kind of leads into what I'll be sharing with you. I was 1 unit short prior to graduation at San Francisco State University, and I was commuting an hour each way. Now it would probably be 2 hours with the way traffic is. And when I found out I was 1 month short of graduating, the language of quilting set in, like when you ran out of your bobbin 2 days ago. So eloquent words did not form in my brain or come out of my mouth. So fortunately, is it working, John? Is it working?
Oh, yeah, it's working fine. 1 unit short, not 1 month.
Oh, 1 unit short. Okay, I was 1 unit short 1 month prior to graduation. Okay, thanks. I've got my editor now. So anyways, fortunately, my teacher was all about textiles. She was a big weaver, and they actually even had a room filled with weaving looms. I also took a class with a guest professor or guest artist, Marika Contempasis, who was a crochet artist. So my advisor was into textiles. I had just done a paper on quilting and American folk tradition for a child development class. I knew nothing about quilting. So when I found out I was a unit short, my mom said, Grandma started a quilt in the 30s. I think it was right after she had a hysterectomy or something, and it hasn't been finished. So maybe if you finish it. So my instructors, my advisor said, sure, that's not a problem. And so you can imagine how happy Grandma was when she shipped off these 1-inch flower garden pieces, and I had to put it together in 1 month. Oh, did I mention 1 month? Yeah, 1 month. And so needless to say, Grandma's face fell when she saw the finished product, because she was expecting not this. I ended up with basically a bath mat. But I will tell you, people, I got my unit. And it was so funny because I did everything wrong. I went to a quilt shop in San Francisco. I'm pretty sure it was owned by Sonia Lee Barrington. And I said, hey, if I I got to finish this quilt. I want batting that you would get like in the 30s. And so she gave me batting with cotton seeds still in it. And then I wanted the backing to look like it came from that period. Mind you, I knew nothing. So I went to Laura Ashley and I got upholstery fabric for the back. And I proceeded to hand piece this and hand quilt this in that month time. So while Grandma was sad, it ended up the size of a bath mat. I was really drawn into the sport of quilting, okay? I thought I was going to be a weaver for life, but nope, I got bit. So I started to find everything quilting in the East Bay of San Francisco Bay Area. And there was this woman, oh, no. I went to a craft market and I bought a quilt top for $35. It was much like this. It was a twin. It was all polyester. And I started quilting it, doing it 1/4-inch seam allowance, what they teach you to do often in the beginning. And I was bored out of my skull. And this is just a reenactment of that quilt. About at the time, I got a magazine. It probably was Quilter's Newsletter because I think it was really the only one out there. And I thought, wow, man, how much more interesting would this have been had I thought about the quilting? And in that magazine, they would give you ideas. And it just so happened that Nautical came out while the time I was working on that particular quilt. So it was like, hey, yeah, you can do a lot of really cool things. So then I sought out Lucy Hilty, and that's the Mennonite woman I was talking about. And I walked into her class and I said, I want to make myself an Amish quilt. Okay, like that went over like a big fat lead balloon. And actually, I love Amish quilts, you guys. I just love the graphic ability of them, then coupled with the soft, beautiful quilting. Now, this was on the cover of the Green Amish book, not this quilt, this design. And I couldn't put green in the four corners. So I put brown. And boy, I kind of just killed that. Didn't work exactly. But that said, man, I fell in love with quilting. When I make a quilt, the top is great or whatever. But when you make a quilt, something happens. It develops a much deeper voice when you start adding the quilting. And so in this class, Lucy taught us the basics of quilting design, and I'm going to share it with you, and then I'm just going to keep pushing it, okay? So thank you, Lucy Hilty, for everything I've learned and discovered about quilting, and may you rest in peace. Oh, the other thing is, like, if I'm doing this lecture at Paducah, I'll say, okay, everybody, raise your hand, like, who has this quilting design bit nailed? Okay, like 0 hands go up. Except one time, one hand went up, and the lady turned around and realized hers was the only hand up and then quickly pulled hers down. So it all started my love affair with feathers, okay? So let's take a look at this feathered wreath. This particular feathered wreath, I have the top half and I have the bottom half. When I do feathers, I do like a spine in it. That's what Lucy taught me to love. And the top ones organically grow from the spine so beautifully. The bottoms to me are kind of like chewed fingernails, for lack of better words. And are hearts. And what I've learned over the years is that feathers are almost like thumbprints, your thumbprint that you put on your driver's license or whatever. Everybody does their feathers differently. I was just taught to do the top ones. So I was teaching at a guild in San Francisco, and the gal kept making ones like on the bottom half, and I kept going over trying to correct her. No, channeling Lucy, no, they have to flow out organically and blah, blah, blah. And at lunch, she went out and got her quilt that she had hand quilted and brought it in, and it knocked me off my stool because the feathers were all like the bottom ones, and the quilt was simply spectacular. So embrace your feather as you learn to draw them or you look at them in templates, etc. Oh, here we go. I've got to keep this sidebar here so I know what's coming next. So this was the first quilt I did that was after that Amish quilt. My degree in art is really generic. It's let me graduate and get the heck out of there. But if I had to choose my strength, it would be in graphic design. So I pieced this quilt and I thought this was very bold. It is. And I think it's kind of interesting because this was probably 35 to 40 years ago. And it's, kind of, I think of the modern movement right now. But, anyways, I wanted to couple the soft, sensitive lines of Amish design that Lucy taught me with the bold graphic statement of this quilt. And I learned 3 things that hold true to this day. 3 things. All right, let's go through them. The first is when I did this quilt, I was thinking, how am I going to do, let me go back. How am I going to do a square feathered wreath in the center? Because I've got to stay within those lines, all right? And I couldn't figure out at that time, how to draw a square wreath. So it was like mind-blowing, like boom, mind-blowing that it tipped over into the blue area, okay? And what this means to you is, like, let's say you're doing a quilt that has multiple borders. You don't have to stay within the pieced confined units. You can go over the pieced line. Guys, this was revolutionary to me. So that's number 1. It's okay to cross over pieced lines. Secondly, I wanted to do cables in that area that's pink. And cable. And I found that it was too much. So what you're looking at in the fuchsia is what the Amish call their pumpkin seed design. And I put that to give relief to the soft curvy lines. So I like to mix geometrics with soft curves. Now, what's wrong with this is, and I'm going to show you things that are wrong with stuff I've done. But heck, this was my second quilt. Probably I've quilted too much in the fuchsia area. I probably should have just done on the grid of it, just done the 2 outside lines and not the 2 inside lines, because you want equal amount of quilting over the whole surface, as much as humanly possible. So equal amount, soft curvy lines need to be mixed with geometric lines. And the first lesson again was it's okay to cross over pieced lines. So let's go to the next one. The third lesson is equal amount of quilting over the quilt. So if you look at the blue star on point, and then where the feathers tip over into the blue, there's that saggy baggy area. I probably should have extended the grid into that. It just looks funny if the whole thing isn't equally quilted, and it will not hang properly either. So here are some little examples that I've made. Oh, no, not yet. We aren't there yet. Okay. Sometimes your fantastic quilting is not going to show, all right? So let's take a look at this border, this fabric that's a border I used as one. Had I done a feather border, it would have been lost because my eye wouldn't know exactly where to go. I've done this on 2 quilts. I didn't learn the lesson once. I had to do it twice. And so when I have a border that I know fancy work isn't going to show, and I am a classic girl when it comes to quilting, I will typically grab a fan or a cable, because once your eye captures that fan, you can see it and it goes around and around and around. And I love it. It can be a Baptist fan. It can be a Lutheran fan. Claim your faith and call it the fan you want. All right. So here's some examples. The left is stitched in white thread. The right is stitched in colored thread. If you have a fabric, say like the image I showed before, you might consider a contrasting thread for your motif. There's so many absolutely beautifully wonderful threads out there that you can do serious damage to your pocketbook with go ahead and use them and play with them. And of course, this is for machine quilting. Oh, I forgot to say, what I'm teaching you is pertinent whether you're a machine quilter, a hand quilter, or a long arm quilter. These are concepts that I'm sharing with you. So consider your thread color. Also, just like when you were a little kid and you went to draw a picture, they would say, fill the space, fill the space. Look at this image. The space is not filled. Ah, that is so much better. And look how dopey the one on the left looks compared to the one on the right. And then look at the whole composition of the screen. So fill the space. If you're not drawing these from scratch, which I do, and if you have a 6-inch block, but the motif is 4 inches, the stencil is 4 inches, whatever, this is why God made copy machines. Just trace it out, go to your copy machine, and then just blow it up accordingly. I stay away from 1/4-inch seam allowance. And the reason well, first of all, a lot of us did it in the beginning because we would take a sampler class and the teacher would just say, well, just go do 1/4 inch, okay? And the problem with 1/4 inch is 2 things. And again, these are guidelines. These are my personal guidelines. If you do 1/4 inch, it's going to throw into your face the ugliest part of the quilt, and that is the seam unions. Secondly, this is the snowball in the upper right has all that floppy fabric there that is just the worst, okay? So you don't have equal amount of quilting over the whole quilt. Let's see what's next. Okay, so here we got a couple things going on. You have is crossing the seams for the crosshatch grid, and that's great, but the little flowers are not filling the space. It looks weird. Okay, stippling. I used to be really against stippling, but now I view it very differently. Or a tightly quilted quilt. You have to determine how your quilt is going to be used. And I learned this at tapingatthequiltshow.com. If your quilt is going to be loved and snuggled under, you don't want this. It's too much. If it's going to be an art piece or hang on the wall, go ahead, do whatever you want. It can be as tight as you want. And this goes for any type of quilting, all right? So I've changed my rules on that, and down the road I'll show you a quilt and why I changed my mind on this. You know, we're all evolving and I'm still learning this stuff. But what you don't want to do is something like this. You do not have equal amount of quilting around this thing. That is just as weird as it gets. And I see this on quilts. I should have kept the squares as loosely quilted as the daisies are. Here's a pretty nice example right here, okay? You can see that I'm filling the space, I've crossed the lines, and there's equal amount of quilting over the whole thing. So let's take a look at this. I learned this from Lucy. Okay, it's not exactly filling the space on the left, but here's a concept. If you want your quilting to be really important, consider putting in a crosshatch grid behind it. Again, now you are mixing the soft curved lines with geometric lines, so it proves that point again. I really like the right hand one so much more. Okay, feel free to customize if you're not ready to go and do your own designs. Here is your cable, right? And let's see, the left-hand side one would be lovely for hand quilting. But if I were machine quilting, I wouldn't be a happy camper. So I just added lines so I could do continuous lines with my sewing. And then on the right-hand side, I took an eraser. So you can have a template or whatever that you love, and you can easily make it your own. It's always just a matter of connecting the dots. Drawing this thing is not the hardest thing in the world. So on the left hand, this is how I do a cable. On the left hand side, I divide the the border, say, into sections. And then I find the center by doing an X. Let's go over one. What I do then is I draw a cat eye. And people have a hard time drawing these little cat eyes, okay? If they're all different, that's not going to work. Pick the one you like the best and then use that as your template. Then I'm going to connect the dots. You can see in the middle one, I go 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 8. And then on the fourth one, I've got to get the under part of the cable. Think of like a twisty donut. Ooh, that sounds good. I haven't had one of those in like forever. And then you get out your eraser and there you've got your cable. It's that simple to do. And so what about feathers? You can draw them different ways. It's just simply learning how to do it. And look there, I've got my square one. Okay, I am going to stop with that right now. Let me go back to eCam. Let me go live. I'm going to stop there because I really do try to stick to 30 minutes so you know how to budget your day. I want you to know that I'm going to go through everything. Those were the bones from Lucy, okay? This is the book I wrote. God, I hate the cover. There. It's beautifully quilted, and it is the lessons that I learned from Lucy. I do have plenty of these in stock. You might want to not order it today, but you might want to order it. I have plenty. I show you how to draft these things in here. It's a pretty intense little book, all right? And again, it's not really what's going on today in the world of quilting, and I'm going to get to that, but these are the bones of what I have learned, okay? So remember, you guys, at thequiltshow.com, you can become a member for 6 months for $19.95. Yay. We are also, where's my eCam? Where did that go? We are getting ready for our next, there we go. Shoot. We're getting ready for our next class that's going to be a sampler. And again, the CAFE fabric is not here yet, okay? It is not here yet, and we're not taking early orders, but I want you to wrap your brain around this, okay? And then again, that little tool book, if you don't have that, make sure you get that when you order the fabric, and just get it all together, and then you save on shipping. And if you want that rotary cutter, just get it all together. You'll save on it. I think we're in good shape as far as all that goes. So I'm excited about this. This is my love in quilting. This is my love. And I'm hoping John's watching, and I'm wondering, John, if there's any questions that you can bring into me. You know, he's supposed to be standing by with bated breath. Let me look at the comments here because he's not coming in. I renewed mine, yes. Where's Ricky? Where's Ricky? Ricky is in his mountain house with absolutely horrible internet. He comes to town periodically, and he's actually working on a series of, well, not yet, but he's going to have a series of classes when his Lizzie book comes out. So we're just, he's in Colorado, I'm here, we're not married. I'm married to John, and John goes, So what's the story with the CAFE fabric? We're going to do a sampler quilt, and I'm going to do it out of CAFE and solids. And someone's at the door, hon. And if you want to follow along with me and get the stuff, you can get the fabric. So learning so much. Okay, you guys. Anyways, here we go. I got to get rid of this one. So, to be continued, okay? To be continued. We will start when we get back with this quilt, which I think there's a pattern in it. Yeah, when we come back, we'll start with this quilt, and I'll talk about how I handled the quilting with it. So, hey, you guys, have a great day, all right? Just an absolutely great day. Again, thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. and be kind and gentle to others. Bye bye.